Welcome to the Motivational Midwife. My name is Lynn Jones, and today we're going to look at the mechanism of labour. Okay, so today we are going to look at the mechanism of labour, and we're going to look at the mechanism of an occipito-anterior labour. So this is the occiput facing towards the front, anteriorly towards the maternal abdomen. And we're looking at that because that's the most usual position for a baby to be in. And it's useful to know this because if you know what should be happening, it can help you, A, facilitate normal physiology, and B, highlight when things are not going as you expect them to go. And then you can refer appropriately. So when I trained, we had mnemonics to help us remember this, and they are still plentiful out there. This is just one of them. And it's just a useful thing to help you remember kind of the order in which things happen. Although some of them kind of happen almost simultaneously, it does help you remember. So we'll go through each bit individually. So initially we have descent. Okay, so that baby's head is going to move down into the pelvis, and eventually you'll get engagement. Now, when it's a primip, engagement, remember, is when that widest part of the baby's head has gone into the pelvic brim. So primips, often the baby's head's engaged before they go into labour. Multips, it can happen kind of once they're in labour. Sometimes before, often when they're in labour. So at the start of labour, the baby's head tends to be in a state of natural flexion, and as you get increased contraction and retraction, remember that uterine muscle shortening, pushing down on the fetal axis, you will get increased flexion, and particularly as it meets the resistance of the pelvic floor muscles. Then we get something called internal rotation. Okay, and what exactly is that? Well, we need, if we look back at our pelvis, the widest diameter on the inlet is the transverse diameter, and this is the diameter that the baby's head engages in because it's the biggest diameter. But the widest diameter on the outlet is the AP diameter, so anterior posterior diameter. So the baby's got to get from this wide one to this wide one. So as it enters, it has to rotate round to come out. So as the baby's head hits the resistance of the pelvic floor, it will force the baby's head to rotate 1/8 of a circle forward, and that will bring it into that AP diameter, so bring it into that wider diameter. And then so it goes in and rotates round, and then you will get what's called crowning. So crowning, and you'll see this particularly in primips, where the head comes forward and then goes back a little bit, and then comes forward and then goes back a little bit. But when the widest part has actually passed through, then it won't go back. So you'll have what's called crowning. And this is followed by extension of the fetal head. So extension really is where the head has crowned and then the face follows. Okay, so extends out. And at this point, particularly if the woman is semi-recumbent, so she's sitting sort of upright, semi-upright, the baby's usually facing down. Okay. You will then get restitution because there's a slight twist in the shoulders internally, because the shoulders at this current point haven't rotated into that wide AP diameter. They've engaged, but they haven't quite rotated round. So you will get the baby's head just slightly righting itself with the shoulders. But as the shoulders rotate into the AP diameter, because remember, the shoulders have got to do the same thing. They've got to go into the widest bit and then rotate to the widest bit to come out. So as the shoulders, because my head is attached to my shoulders, there's a little bit of a twist. But as my shoulders rotate round, my head's going to come with it. Does that make sense? So because my head is attached to my shoulders, as my shoulders turn, my head is going to go as well. So as those shoulders rotate into the AP diameter, you will get your baby's externally, you will see that baby's head rotate to whichever way the baby was facing. And then because of the curve of caries, because of that birth actual curve, you will get sideways flexion. Okay, so that baby will be flexing sideways and it will be borne up towards the maternal abdomen, and that's what we call lateral flexion. So the baby's head comes through, you get restitution and then lateral flexion. Now, in terms of which shoulder's born first, if the woman is semi-recumbent, so she's sitting upright, it will often be the anterior shoulder that's born first, because that's where the uterine pressure is exerted. But if she is in a more upright position, all fours, you often find it is actually the posterior shoulder that is born first. And certainly if you watch women in a pool, if they're birthing in a pool, they do tend to be very much more upright. You will often notice it's the posterior, the shoulder, that is born first, and then the anterior shoulder. And there you have it, the mechanism of labour. I hope you found that useful. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so, and I look forward to seeing you next time.